Yep, this is what we voted for. Now, you're not going to believe this. Illegals literally got snatched up by ICE while eating tamales on a street corner. And somehow, that's not even the craziest part, because by the end of this video, you'll see how AOC helped one walk free, how Iranian nationals were released straight into America, and why some Democrats are finally shutting up. Let's break this down clip by clip.
Witnesses desperately trying to get personal information from the handful of people taken by federal agents in and around the public park in Pasadena this morning, so their family and friends will now know they're detained. Really? Two men were snatched off the street early this morning at Villa Park while buying tamales from a street cart. The owner of that cart, who has been here for years, was terrified. Around the corner from the park, federal agents were also spotted entering an apartment building on North Marengo Street, apparently grabbing a few more people there. Because of the early morning operation at a city park, Pasadena quickly canceled swim lessons and other programs at Villa Park, Robinson Park, and Victory Park today. These agents appear to have the word police written across their vest, but like in many of the other raids we've seen in recent weeks, it's not exactly clear what federal agency they're from, and if they're just casting a wide net or going to specific spots for specific peoples. To date, Senator Sasha Renee Perez, who represents this district and was also out here earlier today, says on Monday she's introducing legislation to make these ICE agents identify themselves, including with some sort of name or ID plate being worn to show which agency they're with.
As annoying as that AI voice is, it was still better than listening to AOC or Jasmine Crockett. That make you feel a little better? Let me know in the comments if that made you feel a little better. But look, man, ICE didn't raid a stash house. They are, but this isn't, them hitting a tunnel. They grabbed these folks while they were literally buying tamales. You can't make this stuff up, man. Even local swim classes got canceled because residents were too rattled. Sutton and bold these raids are, man. Y'all better quit playing. And the media loves to ignore these moments. The emotional impact.
What agency are you? Where are you taking them? Under which authority are you detaining them? Sorry, I didn't understand it. No. I'm not. I didn't understand. So what agency are you guys with, or through which authority are you guys with?
Which press office we should reach out to, given you guys are...
Why are you not wearing a badge, sir?
Please show me your badge. Get your badge from anyone. From any one of you cowards, please. Please.
Yep, people in the crowd weren't asking what crimes he committed. They were just asking why the agents didn't wear, ice gear. Let's read this comment up under here. I am not moved in the least bit. They could have came here the legal way like so many have. They chose to do this illegally and break the law. They exposed their children to this. Take your family back with you. Yeah, man. Why is it always an issue only after the cuffs go on? I think that's my question today. But the same people yelling abolish ICE can't even explain what they are mad about.
No.
Why?
Because I think people who come here illegally should be deported.
So what about the legal people that are getting deported?
There aren't legal people being deported.
There are legal people.
Who?
What you mean, who? You want me to
Tell me
list
who.
all the hundreds of thousands of
Just
people
one.
that get legally deported?
Just
I
one.
don't need to name you one fucking name. Go educate yourself.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot today. No one can back up with examples or proof anything that they're claiming.
It's not my job to educate you.
I know.
It's not.
I know. That's their cop-out. But when they can't back themselves up, they just go back with, well, it's not my job to educate you. It's your job to educate yourself so that you know what you're out here supporting.
Oh, man. Oh,
No.
man. Liberty Hangout. Yep. Just name one legal they got deported. Just one. Go educate yourself. It's always like that. That's the script now. Get loud, get emotional, and then say it's not your job to explain it. Y'all see how these people operate? But what happens when a family really does know the crime?
A mother pleading for her son to not be deported.
He's so sweet, so nice. I love my son so much.
Tan von Podke is one of many deportations in process across America. Von Podke came to Oklahoma as a toddler in 1981, a refugee of the Laos-Vietnam War. At 19, he had been arrested, served 7 years in jail on theft and drug charges. His permanent status revoked. But he served his time and turned over a new leaf. This is him now. He has a wife, a career as an automotive technician. He's a friend. He has 2 young girls, so he's a father. He also has a legitimate visa, but his past crimes will force his deportation under the current administration.
Uh-oh. Now, he served his time for the theft and drug charges. He has a wife, he got kids, and sure, it looked like he turned his life around, but in the eyes of the law, that doesn't erase the record. And that's where the sympathy line for me starts to blur. Somebody said, if I'm interpreting the video correctly, the guy is a legitimate refugee with his family fleeing Vietnam. Somebody below that said, oh, he also went on to say, not sure why he hasn't become a citizen in all this time, but I don't see this situation as the same as all the illegals flowing across the southern border. Paul responded, if people are here from foreign lands, refugees or not, they have to abide by certain standards to stay. He didn't do what he needed to do, thus he lost his status and became an illegal. Exactly. Now, this is where it flips. So this is AOC walking a Hamas supporter, I believe Mahmoud Khalil, out of ICE custody. He led pro-Hamas protests on American soil, might I add. He got arrested, and she laughed, smiled, and walked him right out that door. Now, if this was a conservative helping a white supremacist, this would be on every front page, man, everywhere. And while she's doing that, this is who's actually slipping through the cracks, y'all.
Another one, she's talking to her mother. The man from Iran asked us if we could pick her up and give her a ride in the car. Of course, we know that's illegal. She's been asking us where the police is at, that she's going to San Diego. She came from Iran. She came today with a bunch of people. We saw the Border Patrol picking up the group of people that she came with, but she's toting behind that luggage. She has a backpack. She has a neck pillow. She has a Christian Dior, a scarf with her, a leather hat on. She's dressed pretty well for making the long journey here all the way from Iran. 4 years, over 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. Who knows the exact number? I don't know. But it has been happening. We have millions of people in here, and it's still happening because we just saw this girl, and we saw 2 other gentlemen. Border Patrol just barely picked them up, and they were from the Middle East.
Wow, Border Patrol picked her up and let her go? Huh? Why was she carrying multiple phones? What was the man calling from Iran to help her move deep into the... I need some answers. I'm going to need some answers on this. And this isn't just a one-off. This is a documented failure.
Border protection sources tell Fox News nearly half of the Iranian nationals who crossed the border illegally during the Biden administration were released into the U.S. Border Patrol arrested 1,504 Iranian nationals at our southern border from fiscal year 2021 through 2024. 729 of them were released into the U.S. Iranians are considered special interest aliens due to national security concerns and are supposed to receive enhanced vetting by DHS. Now, officials are worried about an Iranian threat to the homeland. Today, Homeland Security sent out a bulletin warning of a heightened threat environment and low-level cyber attacks. It warns the likelihood of violent extremists here in the U.S. mobilizing would likely go up, quote, if Iranian leadership were to issue a religious ruling calling for retaliatory violence. It could increase the likelihood that a supporter of the Iranian regime is inspired to commit an act of violence in the homeland. Today, the Senate Intelligence Chairman expressed this concern.
For all we know, they may have gotten sleeper cells into the country during Joe Biden's wide open border. So the threats are serious.
The New York Police Department says, quote, out of an abundance of caution, we're deploying additional resources to religious, cultural, and diplomatic sites across NYC and coordinating with our federal partners. Washington, D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department says at this time there are no known threats to the district. However, MPD has maintained an increased presence at religious institutions across the city. But former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says law enforcement has its hands full.
No. 729 Iranian nationals were released into the U.S. despite being tagged as special interest aliens. These are the people who are supposed to go through enhanced vetting, but Democrats release them anyway? So what's the risk? Let Tom Homan, Trump's borders are. Let's let our guy break this all down.
Assess that issue, particularly how many Iranians are in the country that are in sleeper cells trying to do bad to America right now.
Well, look, you and I have talked about this many times. I said the last 4 years, my biggest concern was this open border was the biggest national security vulnerability this country's ever seen. So I pulled numbers this morning just from a CBP under Joe Biden. There was 1,272 nationals of Iran released in the country between OFO and the Border Patrol. And you compare that to the Trump administration, zero. Right, zero releases. And right now, because of President Trump's leadership, we have the most secure border in my lifetime, most secure border in the history of this nation. So we have a secure border. That was President Trump's big win on securing this nation. So we're not releasing people in this country. Special interest aliens aren't crossing that border undetected. But under Joe Biden, we had over 10 million people cross that border. But my biggest concern from day one, beyond the fentanyl, beyond the sex trafficking women and children, were the 2 million known gotaways. Over 2 million people crossed that border. We don't know who they are, where they came from, because they got away, because Border Patrol is so overwhelmed with the humanitarian crisis that Biden created that over 2 million people crossed the border and got away. That is my biggest concern, and that's what created the biggest national security vulnerability this country's ever seen.
And you have that on surveillance, seeing people get away. Do you have a sense of where they went?
No, the intelligence community under President Trump has been on this since day one. What gives me any comfort at all is that you don't have Christopher Wray there. You got Kash Patel there. You don't have Alejandro Mayorkas there anymore. You got Kristi Noem, and you certainly don't have Kamala Harris as the border czar. So President Trump brought a great team, been on this since day one. Do we know where every one of the 2 million are? No. We don't know who they all are. We don't know why they're here, where they came from. But we do know Border Patrol intelligence for the last 4 years, they found prayer mats south of the border. They found identification from people from Iran, Turkey, Uzbekistan, Syria, south of the border. So we know that some terrorists have crossed that border. We'd be a fool to think zero crossed. The thing is, though, we got President Trump as a commander-in-chief who's put all resources on that. That's why President Trump, from day one, ICE operations, despite what the left media says, he has been focused on national security threats and public safety threats. And between ICE and the Bureau, we've removed thousands of national security threats because of President Trump's leadership on this.
Yes, that's right. Tom, thank you very much.
Graham Matsey said, passports. He mentioned Iranian passports as well. And, you know, all these IDs, foreign IDs, all ditched near the border. And over 2 million gotaways can't be accounted for? Yet Biden wants us to believe he had a safer border. Now, here's the twist. After all the outrage, DHS just made a rule.
There are new rules for members of Congress who want to visit ICE facilities. They'll now have to give the Department of Homeland Security 72 hours notice ahead of their visit. The new guidance from the agency also says ICE can deny a request, cancel or reschedule a visit. That's prompting outrage from some lawmakers who say they have the legal authority to make unannounced visits at ICE detention centers. There are new rules for members of Congress who want to visit ICE facilities.
Somebody says DHS does not have the authority to do that. It says explicitly in the law. I learned, oh man, I wish I could find that tweet. Somebody tweeted it to me where they explained to me how ICE has to give some sort of notice. But now it's, I think it was a 48-hour notice, now it's 72 hours before they can enter the ICE facility. Now, I'm all about transparency. That's what I'm about. However, if they're going in there to somehow obstruct, that's different. So I'll just say this is leaving me somewhat, I'm not totally in disagreement, not totally in agreement. I'll leave it at that. And as always, the same crowd crying for open borders is the first to panic when they businesses get hit, man.
Heights. It's been a staple in the area of Boyle Heights.
Oh, no, let me start it over.
My name's Antonio Gallo. I'm one of the owners of Casa Fina restaurant in Boyle Heights. It's been a staple in the area of Boyle Heights. Normally on Father's Day, we're packed. We have people waiting about 20 minutes. On that Sunday, I mean, it was just, there was nobody there, right? Folks were afraid to come out, and now we have to consider about what do we do with our employees, right? We have no money coming in. It's just the raids in the city, and it's scaring our folks. It's scaring our people, and it has to stop, or a lot of folks are going to lose their jobs. My name's Antonio Gallo.
No customers. No staff, losing money, losing staff, and all this other little customers, all that, right? Maybe next time, hire people that aren't illegal and don't run when a bad shows up. Just maybe. Now, from tamales to terror threats, from kids crying to release criminals, from chaos on the street corner to traders walking free with a smile. This is all a result of what Biden and Kamala Harris contributed to in the previous administration. And the media is way too busy playing cleanup to ask the real questions. Y'all be safe. Please go check on somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. Peace.